everybody. This is Donna Baker. I am running with my 6th episode of The Faces of Monrovia. If you're not aware of this project, it's a little thing that I do that I love doing, where I feature people from Monrovia who have really nice stories to tell. So today I am very excited to introduce you to my friend Kristin Ritzau. You can call her Dr. K if you want to. She does have her PhD, so she is a doctor, but I just call her Kristin because she's my friend. And I met Kristin through a mutual friend who reached out to me about a project that she started in 2020, and we're going to talk more about that. And I was like, what is food ed? So we're going to learn all about Kristin and all about food ed and the fantastic things that she does in the city. So I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Kristin Ritzau.
Thanks for having me, Donna. Hi.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I sort of twisted your arm and made you say yes to this interview, huh?
It's okay, Donna. You can twist my arm.
Good. So let's start about talking about how you ended up in Monrovia.
Sure.
And what your beginnings were before you got here and that kind of stuff.
So my husband and I are celebrating 18 years of marriage this year.
Congratulations.
And when we were thinking about where we wanted to live and put down roots, he worked in Monrovia, actually at World Vision. And we kept popping into Monrovia and seeing this cute little community and seeing it grow, coming to the street fair. And so we had we had some help and just good timing in 2008, and ended up buying a home in 2008 in Monrovia.
Which was the down market,
Which was a down market,
You
but
got a good house.
we were blessed.
Good.
And I couldn't afford it now, but
Yeah, I
here
know.
we are. So we have been here for 15 years, which is crazy. And I say that Monrovia is the town that I always wanted to grow up in. Just its charm, its character, the community, the people. Every year we find more of this, I think what Tina Cherry and the city called Monrovia magic.
Yeah, it is magic.
These relationships and these projects that just kind of coalesce at the same time and come together, and it's been really fun to be part of creating some of those now.
Where did you come from?
I was raised in the Pacific Northwest, so outside of Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Came down here for school, and I've now lived here. I've lived in Southern California longer than I ever lived there. So,
Did you meet your husband in school, or?
yeah, we're college sweethearts. So we met at up in Santa Barbara at school.
Great.
And then came down here for grad school, and then bought the house and stayed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I got that email from my friend Judy Gomez,
Yes.
And she was introducing us to each other.
Sure.
She asked me if I would like to sponsor, I don't know exactly what you were doing at the time. It was some fundraiser that you were doing for a project called Food Ed. So tell me what Food Ed is and what you're
Sure.
doing in the city to help with the giving kids education about
Sure.
food.
Yeah, so we started Food. Our legal name is Food Exploration and Discovery, and the whole idea comes from this idea of reimagining what garden and food education is. So instead of thinking about it maybe like a culinary school or something like that, we're just moving that stuff outside. So it was birthed out of the Monrovia Community Garden, and that project started in 2018, previous to me meeting you.
Judy Gomez was part of that?
Yep, so she is one of our head volunteers for that project. And then we knew when schools started reaching out of saying, hey, we need help with our gardens, that we would have to form a nonprofit. We didn't know that it would become what it is and have all these gardens, but it definitely blew up. So Greg Giroux at Plymouth Elementary, he was the principal there at the time, reached out to us and said, hey, can you help us? And we said, oh, yes, we can help you. And so not only did we help build a new garden at Plymouth, but we launched a whole curriculum. So our idea of food education isn't just about the food and the end product, it's about the whole cycle of ecology, if you will. So the soil, the bugs, the plants, how you then, and every single elementary school student does have an education of food education. So their first graders are making pesto this month, and the kindergartners are putting herbs on their popcorn, and our third graders are eating sweet potato noodles and putting garden flowers in it that are edible. So every single class has their own specific food education that they have. And then we're hoping to scale that up. So we're now building a new garden at Clifton Middle School. And then our Santa Fe program has been off and running for the last few months. And then we're moving all the way up to the high school. So our plan is to scale the program so you have this type of program like music or sports would follow a kid, follows them from kindergarten all the way through. And then we've had the good fortune of still helping run Monrovia Community Garden. So we run workshops and different things. COVID scaled us back in terms of being online and that stuff, but we actually did run a jamming and preserving workshop in 2019, which was really fun.
A Zoom?
Not on Zoom.
Oh, not on Zoom?
But we ran it at the kitchen at the garden.
Oh, okay.
So we hope to bring some of that back. We're trying to find a kitchen in town that we can use and those kinds of things. So hopefully we're gonna have more of that kind of stuff. But the gardens are central to this whole thing, and so is compost, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But
yeah. And that was my next question was, so we're both part of a group on Facebook called Fighting Food Waste. And the woman who headed that up, Jacqueline, is
awesome.
Amazing.
Yes.
And I have learned so much from being on that page and from knowing you and hearing about what you and Gio do.
Yeah.
So Gio is a character who is also, he's a Monrovia, he planted roots here in Monrovia, born and raised. And so you partner with him on a lot of the stuff that you do. I'm going to get him on this show soon.
Yeah.
He has to wait till summer because of school. But, so tell us about how you teach kids about composting and growing their own food. So if they want to do it at home and things like that. So.
Yeah, so it's the new food waste law, which is Senate Bill 1383, which we're all hearing about now. It was passed in 2016, but it was an unfunded mandate. And so what that means is we all have to now figure out how we're going to do this. And it's the whole entire state. So instead of the food going to the landfill where methane is released, it needs to be broken down in a better, more organic, healthy way, if you will. So we have to make compost. And you either have to make it in your backyard, you're going to put it in your green bin, and then Athens is going to do it. But all of our food waste and organic waste is going to be diverted. So that's kind of the principles behind that. That's been in the pipeline, but we've always been a fan of compost because it's, this beautiful component that you can add into your soil and have healthy plants. And it's a really great metaphor even for community building because then the soil and your food waste stays in your community and then goes back to growing something really beautiful. So our goal is to have the compost stay in Monrovia, that you have your compost bins at Monrovia Community Garden, we have compost programs at the schools, and there's only more that's happening. So we're gonna be doing more with compost bins, and they're walkable in neighborhoods so that you can drop off your food waste if you don't wanna put it in your green bin. And then at the schools, to answer your question, the second and third graders, their whole garden curriculum revolves around compost and worms. So
I was going to ask about the worms and the bugs next. So, okay, so I know the city had a program where you could get a countertop composting bin.
Yeah.
How would that work? I mean, I'm going to have that in my kitchen with
Great question.
Bugs growing in it?
Yeah, so we get that question all the time because people have thought, and we all have to learn. Like this is the new recycling.
It's a huge learning process when that Senate bill got passed. And like you said, it's completely unfunded, and it's sort of like everybody's treading water, trying to figure out what are the rules.
Totally.
And my husband's got it out every day going, okay, that's compostable and that has to go in the trash.
Yeah. It's gonna be confusing for a while for all of us. And it's great that we all have our part too. There's not really competition in the industry right now because I was just on a call this morning with LA Compost and saying, okay, how are we gonna partner on this? How are we gonna do this? So there really does feel like a sense of community even within this. For those of us that this is what we do, right? This is our niche. We're seeing it as an opportunity and not something that we have to do. So we're trying to empower that into communities. But those countertop bins, we've gotten a lot of DMs on our Instagram. Why are there maggots on my counter? Why are there flies on my counter?
That was my concern.
Totally, but that's not the actual composter. So no matter what you have, if you got the one from the city or if you picked one up from our event at Food Waste Champion Day, you're using that in your kitchen as a tool to then carry the waste to either your compost bin, your community compost bin, or your green bin. So that needs to exit your kitchen.
Every day.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I put my onion skins in there, and I don't know what goes in there.
And it doesn't have to be super fancy, right? Like I just keep a bowl next to my prep station when I'm cooking. If I'm chopping a cucumber or I'm chopping a pepper and I have, the innards or whatever, I just plop it in the bowl And then that's my chore for my 6-year-old is he takes the bowl out to the green bin and dumps it.
So it's right away. You don't let it sit on your counters. That's where I was confused.
I mean, you could let it sit for a day or two, but then you don't really want that.
Yeah.
But people were letting it sit for, 10
well,
days.
That's what I would have done because I was
Yeah.
I was confused about it.
And another thing too that people don't realize is we really encourage people to use their freezers. So even keeping a bowl in your freezer or something like that. So if you don't want to put it out or your pickup day, ours is on Tuesday. Well, what happens if I have a dinner party or something and then I've got all this food waste? What do I do? And not that you have a giant deep freezer or something like that, but you can put that something in your freezer, freeze it, and then right before your trash day, put it in.
Well, we have to do that all the time. So we use our freezer because of the bears, right?
Totally.
So we live up in bear country
Yeah.
and we can't put food waste outside because it just attracts the bears.
Exactly.
And they're very cognizant of trash day.
Yep. And Athens does have a bear bin for the green bin now. I think
they do?
there's a monthly fee with it.
Okay.
So, but just making people aware of that do live in those places because you're going to have to put your food in the green bin.
Great.
So,
Okay, and so when the kids are at the school and let's say it's their first day of school or
Yeah.
first day of them learning about food ed, what do you talk to them about?
so we have a whole 6 to 8 week curriculum for every elementary student and middle school student in the district.
It's required?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so they're actually at Brad Oak. I've got 2 educators at Brad Oaks today and 2 at Monroe. Wednesdays are Wild Roses Day, Fridays are Mayflower. So it's in the schools now.
Great.
And it's been a great partnership with the district and they've been wanting to scale it up since last year. So yeah, so when they come to us, we go through a garden, orientation and our rules of like be kind, get it? So
BEE.
belief in yourself, but just being kind to the plants and the creatures. And then from there, every student gets their hands dirty. Every student is planting, harvesting, tasting.
From seeds or?
From seeds and then a lot of starters, right?
Okay.
Because what happens is, and it kind of gets complex, but we see the students, they switch off. So we see first graders, kindergartners, first graders, kindergartners for a 12-week period.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is so every student experiences a full growing season. So if they
okay.
plant a radish from seed, they're going to be
When
able
you're
to
a
taste that.
kindergartner.
Well, they're going to be able to taste that in 12 weeks because
Right.
radishes grow really fast.
Okay.
And then we also plant a lot of starters. So at this point, we're buying from, wholesalers, like the amount of plant material is something that I wouldn't wish on any teacher to have to do on her weekends or their weekends. So it's been a really neat process to just be able to provide all of the tools. And then we come in with our expertise, the kids, and then every grade has their own specialty. So our first graders are doing plant parts. Our second graders are the composters. Third graders, every third grade classroom in Monrovia has their own worm bin. So they have worms and they're learning how to do that. And they have little jobs that they have like worm doctor and worm feeder and all these things. And then our 4th grade and 5th grade is a specialized project-based learning curriculum. So every 4th grade is broken into little groups and they actually plan their own native drought-tolerant pollinator garden.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah, and then our 5th graders are all learning about a specific crop. So, and then they do
Corn or something, right?
corn, tomatoes, different things like that. And then they actually create dips for their vegetables. So we have this great fun day at the end where they're making their own recipes.
Oh, how cute is that?
Yeah. And the best part is, my favorite story is when the grown-ups get involved, the recipes, everybody just wanted to use honey and make honey mustard and make something very traditional. When the grown-ups backed up, the kids were actually way more creative and
Really?
making these incredible recipes. But it's because they were more willing to just dive in and say, I want the soy sauce, I want
Experiment.
this, I want
Yeah.
this. And so it was really neat. And we had a lot of brave teachers and grown-ups that day that tasted a lot of things. So
I'm not sure all of them were delicious, right?
not all of them, but we have little, we did it very safely and practiced food safety and all of that. But it was a really fun day.
Okay, so I think you have an auction or a fundraiser coming up again, right?
Yeah, so every year we run our annual auction, and this year the theme is Rooting for the Future. So it helps supplement our program so we don't have to charge an arm and a leg for things. So you can sponsor a garden on that, like a buy now type feature, but then we have almost 80 items so far.
Oh, good.
So we've got Rose Bowl Parade tickets and parking, which is
Huge.
key. We've got Dodger tickets, we've got a whole bunch of experiences, great baskets, donated by you and Gina, so
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Beautiful charcuterie basket. We've got a set of kayaks, a hoverboard.
Oh my.
A stay at an Airbnb locally and a stay at an Airbnb in Joshua Tree. So a lot of just really great items to bid on and give back to your community.
It's really flourished from the first time
from
you
the
did
first
it,
year,
right?
yeah. The first year it was like 25 items and we can do this. And now people really love it. We've cultivated a great group of people that help us and a great group of people that love to participate in the auction.
That's excellent. That's I mean, I probably could talk to you for hours about food ed and all the stuff that you do. But let's get back to you personally, okay? So I should have asked you at the very beginning, tell us about your family.
Oh yes, well, I have a great little family. My husband and I, like I said, met in college, and then we had kids. You know, we played and traveled for a few years, and so we have an almost 10-year-old. Thatcher goes to Brad Oaks, he's in 4th grade. And then Shepherd is in 1st grade at Brad Oaks, and he's 6. And we are a huge soccer family. So
soccer, okay.
Yep. And my wedding cake was themed after Manchester United, so I fully knew what I was getting into.
Soccer fan. Your kids were destined, right?
I mean, I would have been okay. I don't know if my husband would have been okay if they weren't into soccer, and they've chosen not to be Manchester United fans, so that's a whole other inter-family. That's not what this episode is about, but. But yeah, we have a lot of fun.
I'm sure you're watching Ted Lasso, right?
Just watched the newest episode last night.
That sort of educated me on soccer because I went to the Olympic soccer game back in 1988.
Oh, wow.
The company I worked for had tickets.
Yeah.
And so nobody wanted them. They were just giving them away to all the employees. And so my husband and I actually went. It was at the Rose Bowl.
Oh, so fun.
Because it was LA, it was 1988. And that was my first exposure to soccer. And it was so fast and there was no scoring. And I'm like,
what is this?
Why play if you can't score?
Yeah.
You know? But I get it now.
Yes, it's an art. It's
really
a beautiful game.
Worldwide sport versus our football here, which they call it, or baseball, where they call it the World Series, when it's really not the world.
Right.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. And it's just been a great thing for our family to do, and I'm leaning into the season because I know it's going to be over with like that. So I'm either working or at the soccer field.
Oh, great. Okay, well, you're a good mom. That's a good thing.
I wear my
soccer
soccer
mom shirt. What do your kids like
shirt.
to do besides soccer?
So they were in Scouts too with PAC 66 here in Monrovia. So we go to Scout events and they're help leading the flag salutes at community events and doing that stuff. But those are the kinds of things that, you know, I would love to think that I'm the kind of parent that would plan camping trips and do those things, but that kind of forces us to go do those things. So we've gone on midnight grunion runs down at the beach. We've gone camping, we've gone paddle boarding, we've gone shoot off rockets with the Traegers in the middle of the desert somewhere. So that is also another thing that we just love and is very Monrovia focused because there's just a great group of families doing that too. So,
so what are some of your favorite places in Monrovia?
Oh, to eat, to play, to
everything.
Gosh, well, I love a lot of the restaurants, so, you know, I'm still sad about Market Grill and Tracy and Alex, but I understand.
We're all sad about that.
Yes, but love Tracy and Alex and wish them the best, but Market Grill was my favorite because it used to be right over there, which is around the corner from my house. So that was delicious. Yeah, we love McComey. My 6-year-old loves McComey Sushi.
Really?
It's his favorite restaurant.
That's funny that kids like raw fish.
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh.
get that. I don't like raw fish at all.
He could eat it every day.
Really?
And then La Delita, we love La Delita. My life revolves around food, as you can tell. So we just love all the places.
Food ed, food places, and soccer.
And soccer.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what did you do as a kid growing up in the Northwest that inspired you to get a degree? What is your degree in?
My PhD is in religion and ecology.
And ecology.
Yep.
So that sort of guided the process of you getting involved in this food education stuff?
Maybe not so much my growing up. The more I got into it, my family will say things like, you know, your great-grandmother was a farmer. You know that your great-grandma did this, or you know your great-grandpa. And so it's been funny to see those things bubble up out of the family history. But really, it was our home in Monrovia that spurred it on. So when we moved in 2008, we started watering our lawn, and our water bill was astronomical. And my husband and I both looked at each other, and I knew when we moved here that I wanted a garden, but I just wanted a little kitchen garden. I wanted to go out and cut some herbs.
Sure.
I don't do anything halfway. So what ended up happening was our front yard, we took the grass out early on, and I remember some people from the city came by to kind of see what we were doing, and they said, oh, we've never seen this before. And it was
Really?
2008, yeah, in terms of like, because it wasn't the whole ripping out your lawn
Sure.
phase yet and that stuff, and we wanted a garden in the front yard, which was still in 2008, just a few
Unusual, yeah.
few crazies that were doing it.
What are my crazy neighbors doing with their lawn?
Yeah. So there's some great stories about our neighbors asking us, what are you doing? You know, it looked like we were grave diggers in the middle of the night, like putting in these garden plots. But
When at Halloween, if that was Halloween,
Yes.
and I know that's your favorite
oh,
holiday
I love
too,
Halloween,
right?
yeah. But yeah, so we ended up having a pumpkin patch in our front yard. And
Oh.
that spurred on because we lived down the street from one of the schools, and kids walking by and seeing the pumpkins grow, you know, and that's not really common around here. You have to go pretty far to go
Yeah.
to an actual pumpkin patch, not just the thing that used to
Right.
be on the corner. So we took out the pumpkins one day, and this kid walked by, and the pumpkins were gone, and our screen door was open, and they couldn't see us, but we could hear them. And the kid goes, "Where are the pumpkins?" And I realized that this had like ripple effects into the community of like watching our weird house and watching these things happen. So in 2009, we started doing garden beds. We had like 12 garden beds. We planted 24 fruit trees. We
In your
ended up-
front yard?
in the front and backyard.
Both, okay.
And we got chickens in the backyard, not the front yard. And that was, you know, 13 years ago when we started doing
Yeah,
that.
nobody was doing it then,
So,
right?
so yeah, so we had this whole iteration before kids of, that's when I was canning food and doing all this stuff and learning different jamming recipes. And at our peak at summer, we were growing 200 pounds of produce a month.
Oh my,
And not just like a giant pumpkin, like
personally.
buckets of tomatoes, yeah, cucumbers.
Well, you couldn't eat all that food, right? I mean,
My family got so many gift baskets of things. And we were legit canning all of it. So we would just save it for Christmas gifts and pass it out to my
Jams and
coworkers and
tomatoes and things like that. Oh,
and then
that's so cool.
simultaneously I was working at Azusa Pacific University with students and really falling in love and with the process of higher education. And my supervisor at the time sat me down and said, you know that there's a job you can do where you teach and write and do research. And I was like, oh yeah, I should probably go back to grad school. Went back to grad school, and in that time, the last 10 years of higher education has been its own reshuffling, if you will, and really started dreaming up what would life look like. Are we gonna move? I started working at a university in Thousand Oaks, and I was commuting up there
Oh, wow.
3 times a week, and that wasn't sustainable either. But I had my dream job up there teaching and running the university farm, but it wasn't sustainable, and then the pandemic happened. And, but yeah, my background in terms of like falling in love with the process of food and agriculture was at my home, at my little homestead.
I love that.
And then my research, I got to travel the United States interviewing female farmers. So
I read that in your interview that you got to interview the female farmers. That was sort of your focus, right? Was female farmers.
Yeah, and the model that I chased and went after and talked with these women about was these small intentional farms that were connected to community. And that looks different here, you know, like we don't have farmland in Monrovia and LA County.
We're a little
We
urban.
used to, but you know, that's the legacy. But
There aren't that many female farmers, right? I mean, it's more of either a, you know, men and the dads and the uncles work in the farm, and you know,
yeah, it's
girls don't grow up learning to be farmers unless they live on one, right?
right. And there's a whole new branch of research because there's like an agricultural census. So it's just for people that are in agriculture. And there's a thing called a principal operator. And they used to only have one name on that. And it's been in the last, I mean, I didn't look at this right before I came, but it's been since 2000 that they changed it so that there could be 2. So you have all this new data since the last 20
good.
years of women in farming that have never been accounted for.
Oh, okay.
So
So
you
it was
see-
more common. You just didn't notice.
Well, you think of the family farm
The
as it
credit.
is traditional, the man's name went on the form.
Sure.
And so now you have these family farms, but I wanted to kind of dive into women that were the main runner of the farm, operator. So I went around and got to go to Wisconsin and Iowa and go to these farm conferences.
Real farm country.
Real farm country. And I also, and people laugh at this, but it actually was a working farm. The only place that grows coffee commercially in the United States is Hawaii. So I went to Kona, stayed on a coffee farm there, was pregnant with my second kid, and worked on these farms. But these women were doing things a little bit differently than the traditional farm. So they were doing things different economically and financially and in their communities. And so when I came back from my research, I was so inspired of how can we do some things in our own community, right? How can we take these school gardens that look nice, you know, maybe for open house and people that are really intentionally trying really hard, but you have a parent and then they move on with their child, you know, they go to the next round.
Yeah.
You've got a teacher that might switch schools, or that just, I mean, the amount of expertise and things that needs to go into these gardens isn't nothing. So people are really trying their best, but to keep it going year round is a job.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that, you know, Kathy Trosian and the old administration said yes, and Ryan Smith has still continued to carry on saying yes to us.
I think it's an important thing for kids to
Yeah.
learn nowadays. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought of it. But so if the viewers want to find out more about your nonprofit,
Yeah.
how can they find that out?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram and Facebook, and our handle is @ExploreFoodED. Explore Food Ed. Food Ed wasn't available, so that's why we have this long handle.
Okay.
And then our website is also explorefooded.org. You can sign up for our email list on our website. And then one of the best ways we like to encourage people to get involved right now is we have a lot of grant programs right now through the state to volunteer with us. And so one of the ways we keep this program sustainable is through people coming out on the weekends, you know, getting a little bit dirty, but our volunteer programs are for all ages. So we've had people, you know, as little as this with their little tiny trowels helping us plant plants, all the way up to this weekend. We've got our Arbor Day program, and we're gonna be planting trees at Clifton and Wild Rose and a couple of the community gardens as well.
I was driving up Canyon this week, and that's the back of the school of Clifton is on Canyon, just below Foothill. And I saw a bunch of kids out there at the garden. And I thought, I wonder if Kristin is over there. So
Not yet, not yet.
No?
Yeah. We're gonna be shifting that garden a little bit so it has a little bit more sun, but yeah, we're gonna be adding on to the garden over there too. So stay tuned for that corner to be transformed.
All right, good. All right, well, like I said, I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but we're out of time. So that was a great discussion.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thanks,
much
Donna.
for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I want to thank KGEM for always being willing to help me with this program. So go to thefacesofmonroviaca.com and enjoy reading about your neighbors. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you, Kristin,
Thanks,
for
Donna.
being here.
Yeah.
Have a great day.